obviously, every team at Worlds at this stage is like pretty good. We're in a situation where we're not playing the best League of Legends, so I'm sure GAM is also very happy with the draw, by the way.
All right, another day at Worlds 2024, and I mean today it's a win for Team Liquid. You guys saved yourself from elimination, but I can tell that you are not quite happy after this game. So I mean, can you tell me what are your first thoughts coming out of Pain Gaming? I mean, I saw that on Twitter. You already had a clip where you went to Core JJ after the game and you told him like you need to play 700 hours of League of Legends next week. So how do you feel?
Honestly, I think when we won, my first reaction was to punch my desk. So probably not the best win we've ever had, but a win is a win. What I meant to core, like to just clarify it, is like we're a team that when we play the game a lot, we get a better feeling for the game. And we've been playing some comps that we haven't necessarily played on stage, and then on stage different drafts look good. So to like be able to execute these fighting comps, like we just need way more time on them, I think. So that's what we're going to look to do in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I mean obviously you can also be a bit thankful about the draw because you didn't draw WLG. I mean, that would have been probably the worst thing possible. Yeah. GAM is probably on paper one of the easiest teams that you could have faced, but I mean, still a very strong opponent, right? Yep. And how do you feel about this as well? I mean, are you still technically a bit relieved, I guess, that you get like this lifeline in a way and you can most likely move on to 2-2 as well, hopefully this week?
Yeah, I mean, obviously every team at Worlds at this stage is like pretty good. We're in a situation where we're not playing the best League of Legends, so I'm sure GAM is also very happy with the draw, by the way. Yeah. In saying that, we do want revenge for what happened last year. I was there as a positional coach, and it wasn't fun to be on the losing end of that BO3. Yeah. They're also a team that is going to challenge us and fight very often, like Pain. We actually identified how good Pain is at setting up team fights. Like maybe not the best team on the map, but when they actually get in a fighting position, they fight very well. We think that GAM's probably very similar, so we got to make sure that we take them very seriously and work on our team fighting.
Yeah, and I mean also we heard an interview from Umti with Ashley Kang as well that commented after the last two matches that you got as well. And I mean obviously you had some pretty difficult matchups right in the first few rounds. You had LNG and Weibo, I believe, and those are two pretty decent teams. Yep. But I know for you, when you are striving to be the best, it's no excuse, right? So how did you feel as well, like going into this match today after the first two matches, about like the level of the team in general, and just like what changes are you making as well to be able to even like face the Asian teams in the next few rounds as well?
Yeah, actually I was like more nervous today than I was for the other two matches, pretty simply because the game pace that the LPL plays actually suits us a lot, because we're very skirmish heavy teams, and when there's 0 summoner spells in the game, I feel like we actually play the game better. That's actually why we play the way we do in North America. With Pain, they're very much more of like set up around one objective, have one big explosive team fight, 5 minutes of free time, one big explosive team fight, 5 minutes of free time. It's actually kind of similar how FlyQuest play. FlyQuest play side lanes way better than them, but team fight wise, that's how they play. And obviously we struggled in the finals against FlyQuest. So just scouting the teams out, I felt like, you know, if there was going to be an upset, that would be how they did it. And then when we got Nocturne Oriana comboed at the first Baron, I was like, oh my goodness, like please no. So yeah, on the other two LPL teams, I think we should have beaten them, to be honest. I think we actually had good winning setup in both of those games, but execution just wasn't where it needed to be, so we got to work on it.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, like also today, Pain's Gaming's game plan seemed to work pretty well. It was pretty scary for a time, right? Were you scared at any point that you were actually going to lose to them? Because both games were really back and forth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually thought game one we played really, really well and then just did nothing with our lead. And then when we got 4 for 3 at the Baron, I was like, oh, holy shit, that could be game over. Yeah. And then game two, honestly, the whole game, I was like, I think their comp is a little bit better than ours. I think what they're getting out of the Nocturne Oriana is probably more than what we're getting out of our mid jungle in that game. So I was worried that probably from draft in game two, to be completely honest. But game one, just a pretty good game until the Baron.
Yeah. And one thing I also realized, or I guess noticed in the recent interviews that we've had with both your players and also other medias I've had as well, is the change of mentality that APA has had in particular. Because I feel like, especially going into Worlds, he's had a lot of growth in the way he takes the game. And also, it's funny because in the past he would always be very boastful, you know, and like give out a lot of very nice quotes for us medias. But right now he's been very humble and taking it in a much different manner than he did before. Can you comment about like the growth of APA, especially going into Worlds, and like this change in mentality? Is this something that you worked on with him as well?
Yeah, I mean, Ian is a guy that is just very, very passionate about the game. You see it with everything that comes across. He puts more hours into the game than a lot of players that I know, one of the highest on our teams as well, and we're full of grinders. He watches the game, he wants to experience the game, he talks to other pro players about the game, does one-on-ones with them. And I think what he started to realize is that sometimes there's a time to be over the top and brash and boastful and, you know, play up to the fans and get some fandom there. And there's also sometimes to be humble, recognize that you're coming into your second Worlds in only, 15 months of competitive experience he has, and that actually sometimes when you have that persona on too much, then you actually block some of the learning experiences you can get and maybe piss off some players that can help you in the long run. So I think that he's just maturing as a person. And I've always said this about being a coach. One of the best things about being a League of Legends head coach is not just the game aspect, it's, coaching 19 to I have a 29, but normally it's like 19 to 25-year-old, men through a very important stage of their life. So I'm trying to work with Ian with it, as he's told other people in interviews. We've clashed in the past a lot. It's been fun. So, but I'm happy with his attitude so far this tournament, and I think his gameplay has been good. I think he's still a level he can get to that he's not showing, but so far, happy with him.
Yeah, and I think an important topic as well is the fact that the West has not been doing so well, especially against LCK and LPL teams so far at Worlds. And I mean, right now, I believe G2 is the only team that actually beat a single team, and it's only Weibo, right, which is seed 4 from LPL. So what's going on there? I mean, is the West just that bad this year, or do we have chances in this tournament still?
Before this World, I was actually talking to my team this morning about the power of 1 week. So before World started 7 days ago, if you had have asked our confidence level against the Eastern teams, it would have been very high. And I'm sure G2 would have been on a similar page. But unfortunately, sometimes expectation and reality have a little bit of convergence at time. So I think the Eastern teams did something very smart this World. They did not come early for their boot camp. And they bought their own meta when they got here. And then people think the meta is set by what's the best in the game, but sometimes the best team just sets the meta and you have to play what can beat them. And I think that's what they did really well there, and they gave us 3 days to actually be able to cope with that. So hopefully now this 4-day break actually helps us and G2, because I would love to be able to play them at some point in this tournament. I just need to play better to be able to do that. But I would say that Weibo was beatable for us. G2 were able to convert that win. FlyQuest, I think, on the right comps, they're the best comps that FlyQuest play, they can go with anyone toe-to-toe, to be honest. So I think there's chances there, but it's looking grim. I'm talking to my guys about it all the time. Holy shit. Especially when you play against Hanwha, they don't give you much of a chance to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, G2 did take them to some length at least. I mean, do you think there's something there for G2 as well?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about G2 is they're the most creative team in the world. So when they start playing their style of make you chase caps around the map and Broken Blades getting on these weird angles and Mickey's then following up on them, they're really, I mean, I think I've said this in interviews before. G2 are one of the few teams in the world that when I want to enjoy League of Legends, I'll sit down and watch a G2 game because they're actually very enjoyable to watch play. So that's what we strive for. We strive for entertaining, winning games, and I think they do that really well. So yeah, if there is anyone that has a chance, it's G2, and then maybe we get our shit together and it could be us too.
Yeah, fair enough. And regarding this entire debate about the East versus the West as well, there's something that Reckless actually said on stream with Tolkien very recently, actually, I think it was yesterday or something, and I thought it was very interesting because obviously, he's been in the LCKCL with T1 and everything, and he talked about how, in his eyes, the big issue as well that he sees with players from the West is that they don't tend to see the big picture. And very often they just narrow down on mechanics or just flashy plays and stuff, but they don't they're not able to see the impact that certain plays have, or TB cooldowns or spell cooldowns and stuff. And he said that he thought that Caps was probably the only player in the entire West that had this vision. Are you in accordance to this? And also, how do you work as a coach to teach that to your players?
100% aligned. We call it the 1 cookie now versus 2 cookie later. We talk about this probably every single day in scrims, to be honest. It's when to pick a certain champion because you know what's coming, and even though it could be good now, it could get a little bit bad in the future too. In games when we use flash cooldowns, when we use even when you're pushing a wave, this wave is free to push, but should I push it immediately and move, or should I try and stack a second wave and move, or should I try and freeze? All these concepts in the game are very, very tough because And it's actually really hard to coach. I'll tell you why it's hard to coach, because there's two kinds of coaches. There's coaches that watch the game completely with God mode, and then there's players that watch the game, coaches that watch the game completely from player POV. And to be the best coach, I think what you need to be able to do is actually watch it both ways. Watch it with God mode and see what the best play is, and then watch it with player POV and then actually see, are they looking for the signs that will give them the best play? And what I mean by that, right, is like, let's use like an APA teleport play. Like I can say, oh, there's this ward here and there's this ability to be able to do this. But if he's bottom lane hitting the turret and he's trying to last hit like a cannon, for example, and then Nocturne use ulti, and he actually didn't see where the wards were before Nocturne ulti goes off, then it's an actual camera control issue for me. And so like there's just like a lot of things that you can actually do within the game of League of Legends, and only so much of a finite amount of time. But I would 100% agree with Reckless's analysis on East versus West, and that's something me, Core, Impact, Umpty talk about all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, very quickly, just do you think this is something that is fixable in the next few years?
Yep.
How long is it going to take for LCS and LEC to be able to step up to that level?
I mean, I said to Steve, give me 3 years. That's what my goal was, to be able to fix a team in 3, like not fix, because nothing needs fixing, but to get to that level in 3 years was what my goal was. I said I wanted like cohesion in the roster and stability and the ability to be able to stick it out when it makes sense to stick it out, but make changes when it makes sense to make changes. So I think that, I mean, that's why I respect G2 so much, because I think that they had like that explosion onto the scene, but then they really stuck with it where it made sense. And then when they've made changes, if it doesn't make sense, they actually go back on those changes and bring back the pieces that they're missing again. So I think they build the team so smart, and that's what I think. If you can keep it together for 1, 2, 3 years, then I think on the second and third year is when you can be very successful.
Yeah, and just I guess the last question is simply because, I mean, I know there's been a lot of doom and gloom in the last few questions as well, but is the confidence for FlyQuest and Team Liquid still there at this world as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think that with the draws we both got, we would both be thinking that beatable opponents. I think that when we go into our next series, we know what we need to do to beat GAM, and that's the first step. And I think that if we show up on the day and play our best League of Legends, we're a better team, and that should give you confidence. If you know that you're better going into the game, and if you play well, then the onus is on you. They got to come out and beat you, and we'll see if they can.
Yeah, fair enough. And do you have a bit of a copium to give to the fans as well before we finish? Just a motivating speech for all of them as well.
I mean, I always say that we do it for the fans. So, like, I know that at the moment it's not looking great, but the more positive you can be for us, the more you can rally behind the team. It really does make the world of difference. So, thank you so much for supporting us. We'll continue to do our best for you guys, and let's go Team Liquid. Let's go Honda.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Spawn, for talking with us today. In any case, it's always so insightful to talk to you, and I know there's a lot of work, but we're really hoping that you guys and all the EU teams as well will be able to put it together. For now, thank you again for viewers. As a reminder, we are sponsored by Holy throughout this event. Make sure to use the code SE5 at checkout for €5 discount on any purchase. And Spawn, thank you again. I hope to talk to you again soon, and I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to talk to you as well in Paris, maybe. And yeah, see you soon.
That would be a dream. Thank you so much.